Okay, this is kind of a semi-announcement or reminder video because people ask me every week, "Yo, man, have you been on Twitter reading the tweets like after each episode?" Typically, one of the writers might say, "Hey, tonight's episode was wild. I was the one who wrote it. This, that, and the third." And let me just say, I do see the tweets, but I don't go out of my way to read them most of the time. People send me tweets, and it's like, "Yo, man, you need to check out this thread. The fans are ripping this particular writer, or they're ripping this episode, or this, that, and the third." As you all know, I'm busy. I don't really have the time. I think this season's wrapping up. And I think that obviously by next season I'll be fully integrated into the house and whatnot, and I'll be able to do what I wanted to do, which is kind of expand, do more interviews with people, or do Twitter spaces and things like that. But for now, I'm just like, okay, there's really no need. I think I will do a spaces probably after the finale, which is the 7th, I believe. And maybe I might try to do some stuff during Zatima as well, whenever that decides to come back later this year. But for those asking me what are my thoughts on, the writing team and, what they did with the season, this, that, and the third, if you've been on the channel long enough, then you know that after every season, well, actually to be more specific, after the first half of a season drops and we go on hiatus, I'll do like a retrospective video, like, okay, what are my thoughts on Sistas season 5A? And then when the season finally comes to a close, within a week or so, I'll do a season 6, my thoughts on, what are my thoughts on season 6? Again, just a retrospective of the entire season, because I didn't want to give my full thoughts on the writers and whatnot and what they did with the show until the entire season came out, because I just didn't feel it would be fair to, either praise or go in on the writers until the full product of season 7 has been fulfilled. That way I can look at the whole thing. That's why I said I didn't want to do any interviews with the writers until after season 7 finished, because I wouldn't want to be in a situation where I couldn't ask questions they couldn't answer. If, I asked this question, they're like, you got to keep watching. It's like, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to look at season 7 as a whole. Yes, I am well aware they continued writing and did season 8, which was already filmed, but they kept all that crap under wraps. So even though I do know some stuff about season 8, I don't know as much as I would usually know about a new season of the show. So if I am given the opportunity to interview one or more of the writers after season 7 comes to a close, I do have several questions. But for me, I think there would be more. First of all, I'm not going to shit talk. That's the thing. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to give my opinion, but I wouldn't be disrespectful if I were to interview, some of the writers. I think some of my questions would be like, since there's about half a dozen of you, how many of you were familiar with Sistas prior to working on the project? I feel like, most of them would know that this was a show, but I think as someone who's been watching since episode 1, it might be kind of clear that not everyone looked at the show week to week or went back to binge like 100+ episodes, and that's fair. But I feel like, and again, I don't want to dig too deep. I want to save some of my thoughts from my retrospective video in a couple of weeks, or actually, what's today? Okay, this week is the penultimate within the next week or two. I feel like if Tyler handed over his number 1 show, it should have been the people who understood what Sistas was. It's like, hey, I'm giving you the keys to this show. Make sure you don't crash it. So before you get started writing, I want you to spend a few days. I don't care if you gotta lock yourself in the room for like a week or so, just watch all the episodes or whatnot. It is curious. I mean, and look, I'm not tooting my own horn or something like that, but I wonder if in some cases the writers looked at videos by people like myself on YouTube who have done retrospectives, character breakdowns to get a feel for what the characters are. Because one of the most common complaints about season 7 is that these writers don't seem to understand the characters that they took over, which is kind of strange as a, again, episode one or a pilot episode fan of the show, that for the most part, I'd say about 98% of these characters have been semi the same since season one. But they did take some characters in a good direction, like Danny going to therapy. Even though Gary's crazy ass is still in the show, I think what they did with him is wild and crazy. And Cheeto's acting is a reflection of that in a good way. But on the other hand, you sabotage characters like Zach and Fatima, making her a punching bag and making Zach far more inconsiderate. And, people feel like, Karen's being favored as opposed to, Zarin versus Zatima. And the list goes on. But I just feel like, I have some questions. I definitely have questions if I'm able to ask the writers. And another thing is the continuity. Like, do you all, I know there's a writer's room, like, and then you divvy up the season, but it definitely feels like there's some miscommunication between, continuity of certain characters and what they say in like episode 13 and then episode 15 is a huge contradiction of that. And then there's also the idea of, what is done during the script writing process and then certain things in the show that play out. It's like, that doesn't make sense. Is that because of the script or the post-production team who like cut and edit the episodes? Because, one of the big things, like, for example, episode 20, you had Karen confronting Pam over the credit card thing, but there was a scene 2 episodes ago that set up that particular moment when she talked with her mom over the phone. Pam comes in the shop, Karen is pissed, but we never got a follow-up on that. So, I have a lot of things I would like to ask the writers, and I don't know, maybe I'll reach out within the next week to see who will be up to do that, because I do have questions. Like I said, I've kind of like, been holding my tongue, because you got those who are clearly upset about the direction of the show, but they've said during those early Twitter spaces that, hey, at the end of the season, your jaw's going to drop and this, that, and the third. So I'm like, let me go ahead. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to let them cook. And we're going to go from there. So I hope that I am able to interview or talk with them at some point. There have been a couple I've, talked with on like Twitter and whatnot. You might have seen the tweets. And I think that I got on the good side of many of them after episode 1, where I made that lengthy post just basically calling out those who are complaining and saying they're quitting the show. And it's like, yo, it's one freaking episode. Just give them a chance to cook. And I'm not saying I'm eating my words. I said that, look, just don't give up on the show after 1 episode. Like, just keep watching and see what they got going, because they had a huge responsibility to take a show that's already been well established and make it their own. And some people don't like the final product. Other people are, enjoying it. But I will say this much, regardless of how people felt about Tyler Perry's writing for the past 6 seasons, I have never seen as many people saying I'm quitting the show and I'm only tuning into your reviews than I have during season 7's airing. That's all I'm saying. So like I said, you'll get all my thoughts once the season has wrapped up, and I'll leave it at that. So please, thanks for rocking with me on the channel. So make sure you hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Follow me on social media, and I'll catch you in the next one.